In one of the most surprising twists of the entire war, Ukrainian forces have quietly deployed a frontline trick so clever, so unexpected, and so perfectly timed that it has flipped Russia's battlefield strategy completely upside down. This new method doesn't rely on heavy weapons, doesn't require massive troop movements, and yet it disrupts Russian operations more effectively than many major strikes. Analysts are calling it a tactical illusion, a move no one predicted, but everyone is now trying to understand. And tonight, we break it down. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into one of the most surprising tactical developments to emerge from the Ukrainian frontline in recent weeks. Reports from multiple open source observers and battle analysts suggest that Ukrainian troops have successfully deployed a clever disruptive technique that has managed to confuse, delay, and completely misdirect Russian forces in several contested sectors. What makes this especially fascinating is that it isn't a new weapon, a high-tech drone, or a foreign-supplied system. Instead, it's a low-cost battlefield trick built around timing, improvisation, and a deep understanding of how Russian units react under pressure. The tactic works by manipulating enemy expectations, forcing Russian formations to respond to situations that appear threatening but are actually decoys, diversions, or controlled traps. This approach has allowed Ukrainian units to conserve resources while still gaining tactical advantages at critical moments. The key to understanding this tactic lies in how modern frontline monitoring works. Russian forces rely heavily on drone surveillance, CGNT scanning, and rapid fire reconnaissance to detect Ukrainian movements. Ukraine recognized this dependency and began creating intentionally misleading patterns, false signals, staged movements, and temporary structures that appear meaningful from drone footage, but carry no real strategic weight. These patterns trigger predictable Russian responses, drawing their attention, artillery, or reconnaissance assets away from the actual objective areas. By manipulating these surveillance habits, Ukraine effectively turned Russia's strongest advantage into a liability. Each time Russian units react to the illusion, they waste ammunition, fuel, and coordination time. This isn't just misdirection, it's a psychological operation that disrupts planning cycles and creates hesitation during real Ukrainian advances. The brilliance of this method is that it forces Russia to constantly question whether what they see is real, slowing their ability to act decisively. Another element of this technique involves timed drone movements designed to imitate large-scale troop repositioning. Small Ukrainian drone groups imitate the flight paths, shadows, and thermal patterns of larger formations, giving Russian surveillance the impression that significant forces are shifting toward a specific direction. The moment Russia reallocates its units to counter this apparent movement, Ukrainian forces strike or reposition somewhere completely different. This creates a repeated cycle of misallocation, stretching Russian defenses thin across wide sectors. On the ground, soldiers have reported that this tactic often forces Russian units to remain in heightened alert for prolonged periods, exhausting manpower and creating operational fatigue. The drones themselves carry minimal risk to Ukrainian operators, yet they generate an outsized strategic effect by shaping the enemy's decisions. This technique shows how aerial misinformation can work just as effectively as traditional camouflage, proving that creativity is just as vital as firepower in modern warfare. One of the most interesting aspects of this strategy is how it blends technology with simple, low-cost methods. Ukrainian units often deploy inflatable decoys, reflective materials, or shaped heat signatures that mimic vehicles or artillery when viewed from above. These decoys are placed strategically to provoke deliberate overreactions. Russia, eager to neutralize potential threats, sometimes dedicates artillery or drone strikes to hit these false targets. This not only wastes expensive ammunition, but also reveals the location of Russian firing positions, giving Ukraine valuable counter-battery intelligence. By turning harmless objects into high-impact distractions, Ukrainian troops are essentially making Russia fight shadows while the real units operate quietly elsewhere. The tactic demonstrates how smart battlefield deception can significantly alter the rhythm of combat. It forces a technologically equipped opponent to doubt its sensors, weakening the confidence needed for coordinated offensives or defensive pushes across contested front lines. Another powerful dimension of this frontline trick is how it influences timing. Ukraine carefully synchronizes small, harmless actions to mimic the early stages of major offensives. For instance, they may stage controlled noise patterns, limited troop movements, or smoke signatures to create the impression of a buildup. When Russian units shift into defensive mode prematurely, they expose themselves to Ukrainian reconnaissance, revealing vulnerabilities that would otherwise remain hidden. In many cases, Russia responds with early artillery volleys that hit empty areas while Ukrainian units remain protected. This tactic flips the operational tempo, allowing Ukraine to set the rhythm of engagements. By making Russia react first and react incorrectly, Ukrainian forces conserve ammunition and maintain the initiative. It's a psychological edge, reducing the enemy's ability to anticipate real attacks. This timing manipulation is especially effective in dynamic front lines where small delays can shift the outcome of local engagements. Observers have also highlighted how communication plays a role in this strategy. Ukraine intentionally leaks controlled, ambiguous fragments of information over channels known to be monitored by Russian intelligence. These fragments suggest potential troop movements or supply shortages that may or may not exist. When combined with visual decoys and drone illusions, these signals create a multi-layered deception environment. Russian analysts attempting to piece together frontline activities often encounter conflicting indicators, making it difficult to determine which threats are real. This confusion slows Russia's decision-making cycle, complicates battlefield logistics, and reduces responsiveness. The tactic leverages the natural tendency of intelligence units to overanalyze inconsistencies. By feeding them inconsistent data, Ukraine ensures that Russia spends more time interpreting the battlefield and less time acting decisively. The brilliance lies in how seamlessly physical and informational deception work together, creating uncertainty across multiple layers of Russia's operational planning process. Another impressive outcome of this tactic is how it impacts Russian morale. When frontline soldiers repeatedly respond to threats that turn out to be false, it creates distrust in their own surveillance systems. This mistrust grows when they see resources wasted on decoys, while real Ukrainian advances remain undetected. Over time, this leads to hesitation. Units wait for confirmation, double-check signals, and sometimes delay critical responses. Such hesitation can be devastating on an active battlefield, especially in areas where rapid reaction is essential. The tactic effectively turns Russia's reliance on quick decision-making into a vulnerability. Soldiers who cannot trust what they see struggle to maintain confidence under pressure. Meanwhile, Ukrainian units gain a psychological edge, knowing they are shaping enemy behavior without exposing themselves to unnecessary risk. It's a form of mental warfare that amplifies the effectiveness of physical deception on the ground. One of the most widely discussed examples of this tactic occurred recently in a contested zone where Ukrainian troops deployed multiple layers of decoys, drone illusions, and noise patterns simultaneously. Russian forces interpreted the combined signals as a major Ukrainian push toward their flank and quickly redeployed several units to reinforce the perceived threat. However, the real Ukrainian objective was located several kilometers away. By the time Russia recognized the misdirection, Ukrainian units had already secured key positions with minimal resistance. Analysts pointed out that this operation showcased the tactic's full potential, creating large-scale enemy movement using small-scale effort. It demonstrated how precision deception, when executed across different sensory channels, can dramatically shift frontline dynamics. The event highlighted how Ukraine continues to adapt in real time, finding innovative solutions even in heavily contested environments where conventional methods often fall short. It's important to note that this tactic doesn't guarantee easy victories. Instead, it creates opportunities. By forcing Russia to react unpredictably or inefficiently, Ukraine buys time, creates openings, and reduces the effectiveness of enemy planning. In modern conflict, these small windows of opportunity can be more valuable than direct firepower. What sets this method apart is its scalability. Units can apply it at small platoon levels or expand it across entire sectors depending on the situation. The tactic works especially well in areas with difficult terrain, where visibility is limited and sensors must rely on incomplete information. By shaping the enemy's perception, Ukraine essentially gains partial control over the operational environment. This is a powerful advantage for a force that must carefully manage resources. It highlights how creativity, adaptability, and psychological insight can combine to challenge a more heavily equipped opponent. As this tactic continues to gain attention, military analysts around the world are studying its implications for future warfare. The integration of low-cost deception with modern surveillance challenges traditional assumptions about battlefield superiority. It sends a clear message. Technological advantages can be neutralized through clever improvisation. Ukraine's approach shows that innovation does not always require expensive tools. Sometimes it requires understanding how the enemy thinks and shaping their expectations. This method is likely to inspire new forms of tactical deception, especially in conflicts where drones and real-time reconnaissance play central roles. As long as Ukraine continues refining and adapting this technique, it will remain a significant factor in shaping engagements on several front lines. The true power of this tactic lies not just in fooling the enemy, but in influencing decision-making at every level, from frontline squads to high command analysis rooms. If you found this breakdown helpful and want to stay updated on every major development from the front line, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us continue delivering clear, balanced, and detailed analysis without sensationalism or bias. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss new updates, breakdowns, and reports. And if you have your own thoughts on this tactic or want to see coverage of a specific frontline event, drop your comments below. We read every single one. Sharing this video also helps us reach more people who want accurate, well-explained information about ongoing global events. Thank you for watching. Stay informed, and we'll see you in the next report.